Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today. It is Tuesday, April 8th. After a quiet night in the SWBA, we got a big one coming up tonight. So we are bringing in our resident SWBA expert, one Rico, host of SWBA Today, which drops every night. Rico, good morning. You're in the afternoon. We're in the morning. Good morning. I'm glad that you're on. How you doing?
Man, thanks a lot for having me. I'm doing great. And man, it's always a joy to be here on this program with you, man.
So, like I said, you are our SWB expert, so I want to keep everything relevant to the SWBA. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the draft class. I talked about it on my Monday pod. I want to get your take on some of those things. We're going to talk about contenders, but I want to start with what is undoubtedly, with 4 games left in the regular season, the most entertaining thing to watch, and that is really the 3 through 8 matchups and seeding and implications in the Western Conference. Los Angeles at 48 and 30, all the way down to Memphis at 46 and 32. 4 teams currently sit there: Clippers, Warriors, Timberwolves, Grizzlies at 46 and 32. What do you think is going to happen over these last 4 games? What are you looking for? What's your expectation? Because I am so excited for how this all plays out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to really seeing what we're going to see, I think, from the LA teams. I think that with the Lakers right now in third, I think that you can look at their play and just see that Luka, LeBron James, these guys are really figuring it out. And I've been really impressed with what they're doing with Austin Reeves. And I got to tell you, Marsh, I didn't think that this team was going to be able to really take off like they did, especially not having it big. So I think that, man, they really intrigued me along with the Los Angeles Clippers. I think that now that we have Kawhi Leonard back with the Clippers, and I think that Ty Lue is probably maybe one of the most underrated coaches, I think, in the SWBA with just the way that I call him a guy that can squeeze the orange. I think he can just get the max amount of juice out of the orange. And I think that this is going to be one of those years yet again with Coach Van Gundy over there on his staff, man, that these guys are just going to squeeze a lot out of that juice. And so those are the two teams that I'm looking, forward to seeing if they can make like a magical push. I think the teams that everybody's kind of looking at right now is obviously the Golden State Warriors with just how special they've looked with Jimmy Butler. The movement and things like that have just been just beautiful, really, since he's got there. And so I think that that's a team where we're kind of wanting to see, okay, does it last in the playoffs? But those LA teams, man, those are the teams I'm wondering about.
Yeah, the Clippers have been totally, just completely different from what I think anyone expected. And that goes back to before Kawhi Leonard came back. I mean, the fact that this team with Norm Powell, who probably he had a real case as an all-star. He
Yep.
had an awesome season. James Harden is Houston James Harden again, and his usage rate is through the roof, but he's playing at such an incredible level. Where we've been enamored, right, with Steph, with LeBron, with KD, Chris Paul, who by the way is 40, and I think he's played in every single Spurs game this season. And we talk about like
Yep.
longevity, right? Jimmy Butler, mid 30s. Look at all these dudes playing so great in their mid 30s. We haven't talked, we collectively, media, have not talked a lot about the fact that James Harden is having an incredible season for the Los Angeles Clippers. He has ramped up with massive usage rates. He's been absolutely incredible across the board in what they've asked him to do. He's playing 75 games. If he closes it out, that's 79, 22, 5.5, 8.5. I mean, yeah, it's not peak, 30-point James Harden, but you've got Norm Powell averaging 22. This team has been really exciting to watch, and I think the consistent note from me on these teams 3 through 7, the Grizzlies not included in that, is the coaching. The coaching for all of these teams, because each of them have a flaw, right? The Lakers, it's the lack of big man. I think a lot of teams are going to take advantage of that. It's the Nuggets, they don't have anything besides Nikola Jokic. It's the Clippers having to deal with a season with no Kawhi Leonard for pretty much all of it until right now. The Warriors trying to figure something out with Steph, and then the Wolves, this huge trade in the offseason. Yet here we are, 46 and 32 for pretty much all of them, and they're hanging in. To me, what I'm most interested to watch is, can Denver figure this out? Because we keep seeing
Mhm.
Jokic out there are they going to be a team that actually looks like a championship contender? What are we getting, right? Because I could be convinced both ways. No, the Nuggets are a championship team; they're actually the second best team in the West because they have the best player in basketball. Or no, this is not a team that's even going to have home court advantage in the first round because they have nothing else besides Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray is inconsistent, and maybe their third best player at times is Russell Westbrook, which isn't always a great recipe for success.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head with the Denver Nuggets. I mean, there's just so much unknown with this team, and it's just a shame too with just the way that Nikola Jokic is playing. I mean, because I just talked about this in yesterday's show where I think he's passed now Wilt Chamberlain for the most triple doubles in a season by a center. I mean, it's just phenomenal work what he's doing. But you got Jamal Murray, who is looks like he's out with the hamstring, and who knows if he's going to be able to be back, and if he is what percentage he's going to
Yeah.
be at. And it's just so scary with this bench because I mean they're far removed from the past when they had Jeff Green, they had
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Brown, even in the starting lineup when they had what is it, KCP. Like
KCP.
this team is just it's so different right now. And it's just I'm not sure that you have maybe the SWBA MVP. Let's see what the voters are going to do. I mean, it's between him and Shea, but
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if that's enough to overcome what Denver is going to have to face in the West.
Make your pick. What's your order? I did this with Yells a few weeks
Yep.
ago, um, and I think the only thing I've got, I can't remember. I should have written it down, but I thought Memphis was going to keep falling, and here they are. But that's the only victory lap I can for sure take. Um, what's your rank? Where do you think 3 through 8 this thing ends up? And I mean, you don't have to do every one of them, but where do you expect? What just stands out? What would you pick here, 3 through 8?
3 through 8. Okay, so I still like the Lakers to really finish in three. I like that. I think that the Clippers do catch the Nuggets, especially with what's going on with Jamal Murray. So I think that they maybe get passed up here by the Clippers. And then with the Warriors, man, I think that the Warriors stay pretty flat at this point. I mean, I think that there's a chance they could get into that fifth spot, maybe move up, but I think the Warriors kind of stay steady behind them. And then I think down here towards the bottom, out of the Timberwolves, the Grizzlies, the Kings, and the Mavs, I like the Timberwolves out of all those teams. I really do because John Morant, I get it. He's special at times and with what's going on with their big there and whatnot, but they're a team that's so up and down. And the Kings, man, we've seen this movie before with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan in the
Mm-hmm.
Chicago Bulls uniform. And so, look, I think that the Timberwolves, they have probably the third best maybe player in the league in Anthony Edwards. And I just think that just the bottom's kind of fallen out of that team since they made the trade. But make no mistake about it. I mean, this guy is dynamic on any given night in the SWBA.
Third best. That's, I mean, it's high praise. I'm not going to argue it. There's an argument to be had, but I'll keep time as our constraint on that. My take it would be I think the Lakers will stay at 3 and Memphis will stay at 8. Everything else in between, I'm not going to pretend to have any idea. The only thing I think I know for certain is that Clippers Warriors game 82 is going to have massive implications. Whether that's the 5-6 matchup or whether that's
Yeah.
6-7 result, which each of those matters so much. That's the only thing I think we're going to see in that Clippers Warriors. But I think the Lakers will end up on the top, and I think the Grizzlies will end up on the bottom. All right, speaking of top and bottom, um, while all this infighting is happening in the middle of the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference is sitting pretty much static. There's not been a lot of drama there. So I'm asking the
Yep.
question championship, as you're looking ahead, does all this infighting that we talk about in the West, does it matter? Oklahoma City, Boston, and I'm going to throw Cleveland into that mix. Do you think our future SWBA champion is one of those three teams, or are you taking the field?
I do think it's between one of those three teams. And I tell you what, just looking back at this, I think it's leaning towards more the Thunder. I
Mm-hmm.
just love the body of work that they're putting together this season. They've already beat Boston. And they did it, I think, in kind of convincing fashion because I think in that game, Boston shot the three-pointer, I think 63 attempts in that game. And you know that that's really Boston's kind of special and the Thunder were able to outlast them at their house. And so, look, I like the Thunder a lot. I think they're 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. And so, Marsh, I get it that it's different when it gets to the playoffs, but man, it is tough for me to really bet against OKC. And with the Cavs, Here's my main issue, and I know that you've kind of brought this up too before, and I just don't know. To me personally, I don't know if I can trust anybody as far as their wing defense, man, to stop any of these elite teams over in the Eastern Conference. Like, I don't believe they have enough to slow down the Knicks. I don't know if they have enough to slow down the Celtics. And I question if they're going to be able to slow down the Pacers over there. But we'll see what happens. It's a new offense. They've been looking good. Let me see it in the playoffs. And so I got to see it be made a believer then.
See, I'll tell you what, I feel the exact opposite about the Cavs. I love this team. Not only do they have a
Yeah.
great defense, it's one of the best defenses in the league. Evan Mobley is a borderline defensive player of the year. He's in the conversation. It's not a borderline. Borderline is in does he get it or not? Um,
Yeah.
Here's my two things that drive me, the one thing that drives me nuts. We sit here and say, well, the Thunder haven't done it. Well, the Cavs haven't done it. What do you want? Somebody has to go from point of having not done it to have done it before. Like it is the
Right.
most mind-numbing thing for me when I hear somebody say, "I can't trust them. They haven't done it before." Well, of course they haven't done it before because they haven't done it before. I mean, that's why it's worth watching. But no one, I beg you, not you, Rico, somebody, show me the
Mhm.
example of a team that wins a championship that hadn't won a championship before because they had to get there eventually. And here's the thing that I love about both of them. Each of them has an awesome superstar, and each of them has a great defense. I said months ago, I thought it was Cavs Thunder SWBA Finals. I stand by that. I think the
Ooh.
Thunder are head and shoulders above the Western Conference, and the knock that I really think this is a market thing, and I'm not blaming anybody for that outside of just we have this media centric focus on bigger markets, but the Cleveland Cavaliers have a star. I mean, Donovan Mitchell has been to conference finals before. This is a Cavs team that had a postseason run a year ago. They have a great defensive anchor in Evan Mobley. They have an all-star in the backcourt next to Donovan Mitchell. They check every single box, Rico, in terms of contender. It's just they haven't done it before, which again, that's what we hated on Boston. And then the moment Boston wrapped up Dallas in five, we're like, yeah, we knew that. They were just a better team. Yet all season we were acting, they couldn't do it because they hadn't done it before.
Yeah. And you make a good point too with Boston. I mean, they have been knocking at the door, right? And
Right.
so even though Donovan Mitchell, what is he, what year two with the Cleveland Cavs, I
Yep.
think this year, right? And so you got to give him a lot of credit. He was knocking at the door over in the West, and I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of the knock is just like, man, dude, can he really get through the door, right? And I think that that's really the question mark that's kind of followed him over to the Cavs. And then also too, I do like the fact that they were aggressive at the trade deadline. I like
Hmm.
when they went out and they got what is it, DeAndre Hunter. It's
Yep.
just a case, can the kid stay healthy, right? And then
Hmm.
Max Strus, I've always liked that addition because he's with the Heat. They made a deep run, so I think that when you get guys that have been there before, that certainly helps. And I like with Coach Atkins. I think that he's opened up the offense. It's a lot more cutting. It's a lot more free flowing. And so hopefully they're not going to get the floor shrinked on them this year.
Right.
But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just a big question mark because it's like, man, the Celtics have been there. And I'm just seeing something with the Celtics. They look like we've been waiting for this. And
Yep.
then and this the Cavs, like I'm like, I don't know.
And I think that hunger matters because when Denver last season when they got bounced by Minnesota, Doug
Yeah.
Malone was talking about it after the fact, and he said we couldn't match their will, their desire, right, their want, because Minnesota hadn't been there, and Denver had won a championship. Once you check that box, the season after, it's so hard to recreate that and do it again. I think that's been Boston's problem all season long. It's why they're only, which is still really good, 58-20, and I
Yep.
think it comes down to it. I really think Cleveland can get there. All right, I want to go to the topic I touched on my podcast yesterday, which was the draft and the age of these guys, and the fact that we just do not see of the draft picks the last 5 years, 70 lottery picks. Only I think the combined number is four combined juniors and seniors have gone in the lottery over the last 5 years, and we're looking at a draft class that's got Lamarian Sherwood potentially as a top pick, that's got Kaishan Ship potentially as a top pick. You've got a lot of people that are high on Travion Novick, on Newly Cox, on Richard Pizarski, all of those guys in normal. Nat Hawkins add to that list. A lot of guys. That's this would be, as I said on the pod, a historical anomaly if we saw that many guys go not only in the lottery, but as high as some people are projecting them. I'm curious your take. Do you think this is an historical anomaly season, or do you think that we're looking at a tides of change?
I think that maybe this might just be one of those years. I just think that, just the level that we're getting with these upperclassmen and things like that, it's just been a lot of quality out there. And I mean, I think
Hmm.
it makes you wonder, like, okay, if they get their chance, could they be impact players in the SWBA level? They've certainly shown that they can excel at the college level, and I love what you were talking about earlier on your podcast. I think you were talking about a guy that I like too is was Arthur Lattimore, I think,
Yep.
right? I think he's a player that I'd mentioned before as well on the SWBA today. Like I certainly think he's a player that has like tons of upside and certainly can make it happen at the next level. But yeah, I think that this just is the year, just for the upperclassmen. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see what these teams are going to do, right? And, if the SWBA rules change, I mean, I think that that would be interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the obvious reason that we're not seeing, because I think Cooper Flag, if he's coming out, he's number one. I have
Yeah.
Nas Hall as my second best freshman. I'm standing on that. The way that he has played as a two guard for Kansas, I think he would be a lottery pick. I mean, of the freshmen, of the five freshmen, I think the all five of them I'm putting in the top 10 of this draft. Just looking at them, but that's also what, to back to the point that I was making on the pod, that's what people want because an 18, 19-year-old just has more time to develop than a 21, 22-year-old. So I think just in general, with that rule being in place, I think we're going to see a lot more older players coming out. I just think it'll shift to sophomores. But I'm with you. I think we're going to see some older guys go early. I think it's just a product of what this draft is, because there's just lower guys. But at the same time, I would not be surprised. Right now, I'm looking at the SimWorld TV draft board, and at number 17 is Lace Darius Outlaw. He's 19. At number 16 is Glory Tate. He's 20. I
Yeah.
would not be surprised if we see both of those guys, and I'm just using them as examples, jump up and go a lot higher than those marks because somebody's going to look at it and say, okay, I can get Glory Tate, a forward 6'5", who's 20 years old, or I'm going to take Kaishan Ship, who's 6'9" and 22. Well, I get 2 more years of development out of Glory Tate than I get out of Kaishan Ship. Ship is closer to being his final product than Glory Tate is. I like the upset. I would not be surprised at all if come draft night that we see some of those guys that people aren't putting as high up on the draft board end up going a lot higher, even if they're not as polished today as some of the guys a year, 2 years older than them are. All right, that is our show. Rico, I appreciate you coming on. Always great to get on and talk a little SWBA. By the time we get you back next Tuesday, we're gonna have, I think, pretty much locked in. It'll be looking at the play-in and seeing what looks ahead because the last day of the regular season is next Sunday. So we'll have the stretch run in our actually, no. The season ends on this Sunday on the 13th. I beg your pardon. So by the time we get you on next week, we're gonna be looking at postseason. We're gonna be looking at play-in. So we'll be breaking down all of that with you, and of course, where everyone can watch you nightly on SimWorld today or SWBA today. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, yeah. So we try to do a daily drop there. Essentially just looking at some of the bigger storylines there in the SWBA. And yeah, man, super excited. It's the last week of the season. And like you said, I mean, I think we'll be talking more just matchups and things like that because, I think a lot of our viewers don't understand that the game really changes when you start to get into the postseason. It's going
Yep.
to start to get slower. Possessions are going to be at a premium, and it's just going to be so much more on display. So super excited for this time of the year.
Yep, rotations get shorter and the rookies stop playing. It is basketball gets better as well. So, all right, Rico, appreciate you coming on. We will talk to you next Tuesday, and we can all tune in daily on SWBA today. Rico, the one and only host of that one. Appreciate you, Rico. Appreciate you all tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.